John Razimus here. Thank you for watching. I just got back from a cool concert. Bjork. You might not be a Bjork fan, but I'm a lifelong Bjork fan. I have many Bjork vinyls, every Bjork song, almost every Bjork song lyrically memorized. And when Bjork said, "Sing along," many people in the crowd, they didn't know the words to one of her most simplistic songs, Hyper Ballad. I'm extremely lucky to have caught this set list that the roadies threw into the crowd. It's an actual official Bjork set list from her concert from the FYF Fest. Just got back from the FYF Fest. I only went for one day, Friday, for Bjork alone. Got this cool Bjork shirt. It's the music and lyrics to Black Lake. She didn't perform Black Lake, but she did perform some amazing songs, like Bachelorette, like Lion Song, Hyper Ballad, Quicksand. A lot of really cool songs. There were pyrotechnics on those two songs. Pretty neat. So I've been pretty lucky lately. I submitted 2 codes to the Lucky Charms Win a Box of Marshmallow Lucky Charms sweepstakes. And on the second try, I did win. So it's very easy to win. From my experience, the code had 777 in it. I just got this yesterday. Hello, today is your lucky day. I don't know if I'm going to open it. It's a full box of marshmallows. Lucky Charms marshmallows. Pretty amazing. I could eat this easily, but I'm not going to. It's too rare. It's a collectible. I collect things, stupid things. Anyway, one of the coolest parts about the trip, besides seeing Bjork in concert, was having a few spare hours to drive down to the Manley P. Hall Museum in Los Angeles. I didn't know about its existence until a YouTube video, which brought it to my attention. I'm a huge Manley P. Hall fan, but only recently. I've watched a huge number of Manley P. Hall related videos on YouTube, lectures, books on tape, to people talking about his books. I have his first book, Initiates of the Flame, 2nd edition, or possibly 3rd edition. I think it's 2nd edition though. And that edition mentioned Jesus on page 33, mentioned the craft on page 72. 72 is a very sacred number in Kabbalah. Manley P. Hall was an expert on studying subjects such as the Kabbalah. Jesus died at age 33. Manley P. Hall was beyond knowing that. He was an expert researcher. His library is extremely extensive, even to this day. I visited it firsthand, and I brought back some stuff from the gift shop and from the library. This is what I bought from the gift shop. I bought these 3 booklets by Manley P. Hall. I got Symbolic Essays, Manley P. Hall's first published works. It's basically 3 essays by Manley P. Hall compiled together. Very nicely done. The first one is a parable, which it appears Manley P. Hall wrote and invented himself. It's a genius story, which illustrates symbolically the human condition and how we can better ourselves and how we have tools at our disposal, symbolic tools. He talks about the breastplate in the Old Testament and how Some people have actually tried to recreate it, a solid gold breastplate with jewels. There are 12 jewels, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. And he talks about how it symbolically represents different stages of the human condition. And then he talks about magic wands on the third essay. Very cool. He describes these magic wands. There's one with a magical light that glows, the essence of the human or something, some spiritual magical ability. We have one supposedly used by a king. And then we have this snake wand that was used by the Middle Ages, or perhaps the Druids before that. But he was like a rubbery, bendable wand of a snake, and you bent the tail into its mouth to create that extremely famous snake biting its own tail symbol, Ouroboros. I'm very familiar with that symbol. I am an actual descendant of Ragnar Lodbrok Sigurdsson through his son, Sigurd, Snake in the Eye Ragnarsson. The legend goes that Sigurd was born with that magical symbol of the snake biting its own tail in his eye. Whether that's true or not, they named him that. That was his nickname for life. That's actually his actual name, so it actually goes beyond his nickname. His name is Sigurd Snake in the Eye Ragnarsson. That's his actual name. It's his Viking name. Very cool. So I'm related to one of the most famous people who was associated with that Ouroboros, snake biting its own tail. Perhaps there's a magical ability that goes through that line. I don't know. But very cool. And then he talks about the brazen serpent that Moses lifted up and it healed the people, and how snakes are not always a negative symbol. Many times they are a positive symbol. So they're used for both positive and negative means, ways, yin and yang. And then this second book I picked up, I really liked the name and I really liked the art on the cover. It's called Unseen Forces That Affect Our Lives, a special edition for students of Learning to Live and Living to Learn, Manley P. Hall. You can see these different invisible entities around the magician. We have some earth imps, we have some water mermaids, we have some fire jinn perhaps, and we have some air elementals. Obviously the four elements of magic: earth, water, fire, air. And Manley P. Hall talked a lot about symbolically in your mind. I didn't read the whole thing though, so hopefully he talks about literal, but it's getting to the point where I think perhaps he's of the opinion these entities are strictly in your mind, which I have to admit I was a little taken aback, because I thought Manley P. Hall believed in these entities as being external. I could tell you my personal opinion, even if it differs from Manley P. Hall. Manley P. Hall is still one of my heroes because he's anti-Crowley. He just doesn't like that destructive left-hand path current. But at the same time, he studied the left-hand path. At the same time, he studied Crowley. I think the reason he disliked Crowley is because the more he read about Crowley, the more he disliked the guy. I'm sure Crowley brought a lot to the table, magically speaking, but the guy was an enemy from God since day one, or since his childhood, very much like Darwin, very much like a lot of famous figures in science, famous figures out of science. But Manly P. Hall, one of the reasons I respect him so much is because he studied everything, every subject. I walked through his entire library, very extensive, and I picked up these free materials they were handing out for free. The official name of his library is called the University of Philosophical Research, or the Philosophical Research Society. And Manly P. Hall's museum, or library, it's basically a museum though. It's very awesome. You won't see any occult or spiritual collection of books anywhere in the world like this. I believe it's the largest occult / spiritual collection of books on the entire West Coast, but I would go farther than that and say possibly the entire United States. It's really hard to know. Over 20,500 books, journals, and rare pamphlets and manuscripts and works of art. And some of the works of art are over the top, extremely rare. Manly P. Hall's museum collection, library collection, includes an actual key of life. I'm a big fan of the Ankh, the key of life. Pretty much about this size. Manly P. Hall has a real one from Egypt, or his collection does. And when you Google search the real ones from tombs, there are very few in the world. Very few, especially big ones. It doesn't look like this. It looks like, I'll show you a picture, it looks like this one. Very impressed, very cool that he has that Key of Life Ankh, that he went to the extreme extent to get one. It's probably impossible to get one of those nowadays, so it's very awesome to have that, to see that in his collection. I walked around the entire library except for the upper floor. The upper floor was closed, but I did take every single one of these photographs. Some of these photographs I took so I can reference the books and find them myself. And I already have purchased one of the books on Manly P. Hall's bookshelves. Extremely rare book. I only found one of them on Amazon. So Manly P. Hall seemed to focus on first editions, not necessarily old. He had a lot of modern works. He had a very large collection of Jung. Jung is a philosopher who claims to have had poltergeist experiences. And I believe he probably did. He wrote extensively his theories on what these things are. And I disagree with Jung. Jung said it's all in the mind. I gotta say, after first-hand experiencing poltergeist activity for 6 months straight, I know for 100% personal fact, and it's only a personal fact, which is extremely hard to prove, but I am seeking to prove it. They are entities from a higher dimension, another membrane layered upon our dimension, slightly up, which is why they're invisible. But I even told the volunteer at the Manly P. Hall Library, I told them the story of how the reason I'm here at this library, and I didn't phrase it like that, but I should have. The only reason I even went to that library is because of the poltergeist encounters that I had in 2010 and 2011. If those encounters never happened, I never would have collected these books. I never would have sought out Manly P. Hall's library. I never would have driven up there. I never would have been interested in picking up anything. But I'm very interested in reading everything and anything on Manly P. Hall. There's a book catalog. Very cool. I haven't even gone through this yet. But you can get a lot of the reproductions at the gift shop. And the last book I got at the gift shop is his first book, Initiates of the Flame. I already have this book, but it's the second edition or third edition. Very rare, too rare to mark, but I can mark up this one. So I bought this book so I can mark the key things for a future video on Manley P. Hall. Because the first time I read this, like I said multiple times, secrets jumped off the pages. When you read a book from someone and secrets jump off the pages, highlight it, mark it, write it in a journal, write it on a piece of paper. It could be very important. And when you come back to it the next day or the next week or year, you might have forgotten that secret, that key of wisdom. So some of these secrets, they seem to jump off the page almost from another entity wanting you to become aware of this fact right here or this piece of information right there. And I believe something like that happened the first time I read this book. I read it a second time, didn't jump off as much. So I got this to help me highlight anything. But the interesting thing is, page 33 doesn't mention Jesus anymore. It doesn't end on page 72 anymore, because this is obviously a reprinted version. But the reprinted version seems to end with the text on page 71 instead of 72. It actually ends on page 76. A lot of things are changed around, but it's not a big deal. I'll reference it, cross-reference it exactly next to the book. So the book catalog, I'm going to go through that. Very cool. You can actually enroll in classes. I heard they are online classes. I told them I live here, not there. They said you can enroll online, so I will look into that. I'm not that big of a Harry Potter fan, but I was wearing a Harry Potter t-shirt when I entered the museum, which probably threw him off a little bit. Speaking of throwing off the good volunteers who dedicate their time to helping people learn more about Manley P. Hall and giving access to the library, it is open to the public on Fridays, and I stopped by on a Friday. And I asked if I could videotape the place with a better camera. With this camera I'm recording on right now, they said, no, not really. We don't want everyone just running in here with cameras. I said, I understand. You know, I respect this place. I'm a big fan of Manley P. Hall. And I told them, I'm of the same spirit of Manley P. Hall, from the perspective of I'm anti-Crowley. I like researching every different possible category and really coming to the truth. I seek the truth, just like Manley P. Hall did his whole life. And I really respect him and everything he did. But when I said I'm of the same spirit as Manley P. Hall, and I only figured this out after walking away, they all looked at me like, ugh. And I pieced it together on the trip home that I got a strong impression, I could be wrong, that the 3 volunteers, and one of them was the president of the Manley P. Hall Museum, got the impression they're sort of waiting, keeping their eyes peeled for the reincarnation of Manley P. Hall. And they're wondering, this guy can't be the reincarnation. I never said I was the reincarnation. When I said the same spirit, I meant the same wavelength. I meant the same general consensus of research everything, come to the truth, seek the truth. I didn't say I'm the actual reincarnation. I guess understandable mistake, but I'm too old. I looked up his death date, 1990. Rest in peace. And I was born before 1990, I'll tell you that. If you were born after 1990, are you the reincarnation of Manley P. Hall? Could you be the reincarnation of Manley P. Hall? And I could do a video on reincarnation, but it gets to the point where I already can see the reaction to my opinion if I made a video on reincarnation. It would probably be similar to my vegan video, and it would probably have extremely negative reactions. So I'm not even going to mention my perspectives on reincarnation, but my grandfather was Buddhist. I've researched Buddhism to an extent, and I'm going to continue to research Buddhist texts. Tibetan Buddhism does talk about literal demonic entities. Yet I hear some people say Ah, the demon stuff's from Christians, man. I'm into Buddhism. Well, if you're into Buddhism, you should know demons are also mentioned in Buddhism, literal demons. But these people that claim to be Buddhist or into Buddhism are liars. Manley P. Hall Library is a very, very cool place. I took every single one of these photos myself. I'm going to go back. I promised them I would be back. Not as some second reincarnation, but just as a person interested. Hopefully I can actually research some books next time. I didn't have time to even read a single book, as I knew I was going to a concert later that day. I didn't even think I'd have enough time, but I did. It's an awesome museum. I recommend you check it out. Awesome research center, library, university even. And I would really greatly like to take classes there and learn and study. But I learn and study every single day. I think they asked me if I have a blog or where's proof of my research. I told them I'm writing a book, Corners of Rooms. I didn't tell them the title. But Corners of Rooms, trust me, I'm working on it. Thinking about it every single day. And I'm going to get it done. It's going to be done. I'm such a perfectionist. I want there to be some illustrations, original ones, that make the package worthy of even being sold. I'm going to have a PDF version. I'm going to try to convert it to Kindle. I'm going to try to get it on Amazon. I'm going to have it on my website, puremedical.com. And I really wanted to have a discussion with them about Corners of Rooms. It's okay, maybe next time I will. They seemed pretty open-minded. They seemed like pretty nice, cool people. I am going to go back. I like the place. Really appreciate the Lucky Charms people for giving me a code that had 777 in it. And that code got me some free marshmallows. Free freeze-dried marshmallows. Big fan of marshmallows. Big fan of Lucky Charms marshmallows. Who doesn't love Lucky Charms marshmallows? I'm probably going to be filming from this area of my enormous studio from now on. But in the meantime, I am going to be changing the old set, coming up with something new. And I'm redoing the Occult Unmasked intro. It's going to take me couple weeks or a month to do so. The concept, I came up with it a couple months ago. I started it and I didn't have the full idea yet. I drove all the way to that concert and back. Hopefully I came up with even the music or the notes for the new theme song. A lot of new stuff coming soon. Revamping of everything. Until next time, this has been John Razimus. Occult Unmasked is going to have some major episodes coming soon. Until next time, be seeing you.